Namaste, Jai Bharat. Philosophy is not really connected with religion, or religion is not really connected with philosophy. If you look at Bharatiya tradition and also the Greek traditions, the two oldest traditions coexisting, and not really coexisting, two oldest traditions, because Bharatiya philosophy was much before the Greek tradition. You don't find religion coming nowhere in the tradition of philosophy, both in Greek tradition and in Bharatiya darshan parampara. But in Bharat, it is not philosophy. We call it as darshan for a very valid, logical, specific reason. That's a distinction which needs to be discussed. I've told a couple of times, and also many times, not only a couple of times. So, for Europe, when it is philosophy, for Bharat, it is technically darshan. Though people use the term philosophy in Bharatiya darshan tradition also, no harm, because that usage of term is actually inadvertent, as well as for want of another term. Concepts are different. The term may be used, but the concepts are different. The concept of philosophy is much different from a concept of darshana. Right. Now, who actually blended or mixed philosophy with religious thoughts with philosophy is actually the Europeans. The Greeks never did it. They had philosophy per se, though it has all the characteristics of European philosophy of today. Now, we all are aware of that 2000 plus years of dark period, European, medieval period, which the European historians themselves call as a dark period for reasons well valid. We haven't called, but they called. That time only religion and religious thoughts were there. That period was. At that time, these are the people, this is how it begins. There were three padres who were later beatified into sainthood by the Catholic Church. And these three are very important people, very clueful and very smart people, very thinking people, good thinkers, good minds. They are sainthood is given later. So, but Saint Augustine, Saint Thomas Aquinas, and Saint Anselm of Canterbury. Among the three, Saint Anselm is younger. They belong to different periods and they belong to different areas, different places. But nonetheless, they were all the padres later got beatified into sainthood, who thought and who wrote. Now they have found they found the Greek philosophy. These people used to read, understand, think, and write. They found Greek philosophy very helpful to establish the points which they wanted of establishing the kingdom of God on earth. So they found Aristotle, because Aristotle is the latest and youngest in them, and rather more simple than his teacher Plato. So you find Aristotle's influence in all the three thinkers who blended philosophy with the religious thoughts and created a new area which they call as theology. We don't have theology in Bharat, strictly speaking. We have itihasas. So they created something like theology. Now it remained for a long time that theology and philosophy were jumbled up, were mixed up. This went on until René Descartes, much later, almost 2000 years after, took off to reason, not really delinking from theology. Theological influence was always implied in the theory of in the philosophy of Descartes, but he took a different step. From there, the modern philosophy starts, and to that extent, Europeans used to call René Descartes as the father of modern Western philosophy. Actually, I call it as modern European philosophy. But in Bharatiya knowledge traditions, the whole things were different. First of all, it's inappropriate to call Bharatiya dharmas as religion for a very well valid reason. All right, but again, for want of another tense, our thinking never got messed up and mixed up with Bharatiya knowledge tradition. When you speak of, we have six Darsana schools, and each of them were knowledge seeking darshanas, knowledge of all kinds, knowledge seeking darshanas. This is precisely what the Greeks also, early Greeks were also doing, right from Thales. Thales is a pre-Socratic thinker. Right from Thales, they were knowledge seekers. The question of religion never came for the Greeks. They had a beautiful established religion, which of course it appears to be an extension of Vedic Dharma. The Hellenistic religion of Greece must have been definitely influenced, because they used to come and go and learn from it in our universities. All these things we have no records, but then there's all logic. So they did not connect it with their wonderful religion. They took philosophy purely in a different direction, without mixing it with concepts of God and after death and death and after death life and promises of rewards after death in an imagined heaven, and threats and frights of punishment in an imagined hell, etc. This is how these religions survived. Promises of rewards and fear of fear of punishment in hell. All kinds of very crude imaginary threats of punishment, and at the same time very crude imaginary rewards in heaven, which is mostly sensuous, not anything else. Anyway, so they have not mixed religion with philosophy. They kept philosophy. And in Bharat, of course, it never was the case of the transcendental questions being taken very seriously into our schools of darsana. There are 6 darshana schools. Each 6 darshana schools, including materialism, so called in the European pattern. We have the Nyaya and Vaisheshika, the Sankhya, the Mimamsa, etc., up to Charvaka. So 6 schools. If you are interested in, you can look at Dhirendra Mohan Datta's book, which explains beautifully, and he gives the name to his books as 6 ways of knowing, 6 darshanas. Religion was never a part of it. The mixing up of blending of religion with the philosophy is done by the 3 saints, and which of course had been going, and because of that precisely there came a break in European philosophy. They treated teachings of religion as negative. Where it was negative, it was negative. So they wanted to build a positive philosophy, and we have Comte and company creating a positive philosophy, and then they took too much to science, thinking that science is only valid knowledge. Of course, in front of what they had been experienced as their previous fundamental knowledge, science is only valid knowledge, which is based on cause-effect relations, etc. So Bharatiya Darshan Parampara was actually adulterated with the mixing up of European philosophy. Otherwise, the Bharatiya Darshan Parampara would have remained more pure. Now, the mixing up of these two, in all our universities, we have some papers called as Western philosophy, which actually are European philosophy, and Indian philosophy, which is actually Bharatiya Darshan, and hardly any appropriate imparting of the distinction based knowledge is done hardly for want of various reasons. Various reasons, for want of various things, and for various reasons. Anyway, when you're interested and when you go across this kind of things, please bear in mind that there are always five fingers are not the same. There are always some kind of differences between what is in the Europe and what is in Bharat, because Bharat has an exclusive standing of knowledge tradition which is inclusive. That's very interesting. So we may discuss later with something else. Till then, Namaste, Jai Bharat and Jai Sierra.